This is Eat, Sleep, Invest, the marketing podcast for real estate investors to get more deals.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Eat, Sleep, and Invest. I'm your host, Brian Driscoll, and I'm here with Dustin Heiner. What's going on, Dustin?
Hey, Brian. Thanks so much for having me on the show. Yeah, I love investing. I love the name of your show, too, because Eat, Sleep, and Invest. I literally make money when I sleep because my properties make me money. And the greatest thing about it all is I've been blessed, and I love the term successfully unemployed. I used to use the word retire, but they confuse people. But then I say, because I still work, I still love doing things, but successfully unemployed, meaning I found a way to make money to provide for myself and my family without working that dead-end job or that just over-broke job. Now I have fun all day, go to the gym, hang out with my family, and come on podcasts and talk to great people like you. So thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. This is going to be interesting, too, because I know there are a lot of people that want to get into real estate that listen and always get stuck with the analysis or paralysis analysis, all that kind of thing. So we'll be able to talk about that kind of stuff and taking action. But first, give me a little bit of background. Like, how did you get into this? And give me a background there.
Oh, yeah, totally. So I'll go to the end and then I'll go right back to the beginning. So when I was 37 years old, I was blessed to be able to quit my job. That's because I had enough rental properties making me money every single month in passive income. Each one were making me a minimum of $250 a month in passive income. Eventually, I had 30 plus properties. Like, why am I still working here? I need to quit. So, but I'll quickly go back to the beginning. So all my life, just like all of us, we're all taught this path that we're supposed to take. You go to school, get good grades. Then you get those good grades, you go to a college, get in thousands and thousands of dollars into debt, and get good grades again and get a piece of paper. It's called a degree. And then you go and you shop around to different companies to try to hopefully find a career there, then work 40 plus years of your life, eventually retiring at 65, 70 years old, and hopefully live the rest of your life on what you managed to save that entire time working that just over broke job. Well, I'm following that exact same path that everybody is taught, but I've also been entrepreneurial. You know, the idea of starting businesses. I really like that. So when I was young, I had a newspaper route. That's where a lot of people don't know what newspapers are anymore, but I'd rather run my bike at 5 a.m, throwing newspapers at 5 a.m., banging them on garage doors, waking people up. I had a graphic and website design company. I even had a skateboard manufacturing business, even a pizzeria and a convenience store, all from the ground up. Just built them because I really enjoyed business, but I was still working that W-2, that dead-end job. But also, on top of that, I got the most stable, secure job I could ever think of. I was working in California for a local county government and doing IT, all, technology. All three of those California's not going away, government's definitely not going away, and technology is not going away. So I'm getting the stable, most secure job. At the same time of businesses and job, I bought one rental property. And that one rental property made me, and I remember the number, like from the check from my property manager, $317. I remember that literally ingrained. I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't do anything. And my property made me money. I need to be an investor. I need to go gung-ho. But Ryan, you know how it is, how it all is for everybody. Life started getting in the way. My wife and I started having kid after kid after kid. And by the time my wife had her fourth child, I went on paternity leave. And this is a story that really shoved me into it. So I went on paternity leave. That's where the dad stays home with the mom, changes poopy diapers and bonds with the baby and all that good stuff. And so after about 2 weeks, I go back to work. And in that same week that I go back to work, I get a call from my boss's secretary, like the top dog. And she says, Dustin, would you please come to the office? And I said, sure. And I hung up the phone. And this was Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon. I thought, why would they be calling me in the office? Like, this isn't normal. And I've seen plenty of movies. Friday at 3:30 is not a good sign. And I remembered a couple months before I went on paternity leave, there were some rumors or some rumbling going on that there could potentially be layoffs because the county was running low on money. And I immediately shook it off. I said, there's no way. I've got so much seniority here. My bosses think I do a great job. I've been there 13 years or so. So I get up and I walk down the hallway to my boss's office. Now, Brian, this hallway isn't very long. In fact, it's kind of short. But every single step that I take, it feels like the hallway gets longer and longer and longer. It feels like my feet become lead bricks because the weight of possibly losing my job is starting to crash down on me. Well, I get down the hallway and I turn the corner and I see my boss's door. His door's closed and I see his secretary there. Super sweet, nice old lady. And she says, Dustin, would you please have a seat? And she's trying to, like, sheepishly grinning at me and trying to console me with her eyes because she knows everything about what's going on. I know nothing about what's going on. So I go and I take my seat and I think about my life. All this path that I've been told that I must follow, to work in this W-2, if that gets taken away from me, did I just waste my life doing this? And then, oh my goodness, if I don't have the ability to make money, I can't feed my family. What does that make me as a father? Does that make me a failure as a father? Does that make me a failure as a husband, as a man trying to provide for his family? Well, as I'm sitting, my hands get all clammy, my forehead gets all sweaty because the nerves of everything is just crushing down on me. Well, the door to my boss's office opens up, and out walks a coworker of mine, a lady coworker of mine. She passes by with a piece of paper in her hands. She is noticeably distraught, noticeably upset. She's not necessarily crying, but you can tell. Her world has absolutely been rocked. She passes by me, and my boss says, Dustin, would you please come in the office? So I get up, and I go into his office, and I get laid off, Brian. And this is the government. Nobody gets fired or laid off in the government, but I did. The reason why I tell the story is because I realized two things. I walked back to my desk, and I sat down at my desk just getting laid off. I realized two things. Number one, I need to get another job. I need to provide for my family. Really, really blessed, praise the Lord, to find another job in the same county. Another department wasn't having the same issues with money. Check, got that. The second thing that I realized there was I need to make sure that this never, ever happens to me again. I need to make sure that nobody has the ability to take away my ability to feed my family. So right then and there, I knew I needed to be an investor, but life got in the way. So what I did was I told myself, anytime anybody would ask me the question, Dustin, what do you do? I would always reply, I work for the county, technology for the county. I'm basically projecting the value that I put on myself as coming from my job. No, my value doesn't come from my job. My value comes from myself and from my God and from my family. So right then and there, I told myself, I will always call myself an investor. Now, it may so happen that 100% of my money comes from my job. That's now my part-time job. I am a full-time investor. Fast forward the story, started buying property after property after property, each one making me a minimum of $250 or more in passive income. Eventually, 30 plus properties, I said, man, even though I'm making $75,000 a year at this job, I'm losing money. So the last part of the story, I went to my new boss, good boss and all, and I said, hey boss, here's your 2 weeks notice. Like, I'm laying you off. And, we joked and laughed about it. And he said, Dustin, what are you going to do? I said, I don't have to do anything. I own real estate. It works for me without me doing anything. And so the last part of the story, if you remember that story of me going down the hallway, the short hallway that got longer and longer and longer, well, I would walk to and from work 1.5 miles every single day. Done it 1,000 times because I parked farther away. I was too frugal to pay for parking. It was at downtown. I felt like I was walking on clouds the last time I walked away from my job for the very last time, because I knew I would never, ever need another job again. And everybody listening, you need to understand this, that you are worth so much more than anybody could ever pay you. In fact, your boss is not paying you what you're worth. And this is how you'll know. Your boss is paying you just enough to keep you working without quitting, but not so much money that takes money out of their pocket. If they paid you what you're worth, they'd probably go broke. And so what we need to do is start realizing that our value is so much more than anybody could ever pay us. For me, my real estate investing got it so that I could then have money coming in to provide for my family without working that dead-end job, that just over broke job. With that, I now am getting paid for the value that I bring, because now I have 40 plus hours of my life back. Then I literally hang out with my family, build more businesses, do everything that I want, because I realized if I put my life in somebody else's hands, it's more risky doing that than it is to invest in real estate. So I'll pause the story because you probably got plenty of questions.
Yeah, no, you know what? That's a really good story there too, and a good point, because you're right. When you have a W-2 job, you don't have full control. Like, things can be taken away from you at any moment. You have to have, even if, like, it's okay too to keep a W-2 job and be investing, because that you have a buffer. Like, you always want to be prepared and a backup plan, right? So let me ask you this. So leaving job, I talked to a lot of investors, right? Talked to a lot of seasoned guys. I talked to a lot of the guys that are newer. And I know I've heard this multiple times. People are like, I'm going to quit my job when I have $100,000 in the bank. And then I talk to them and they're like, yeah, I got $100,000. I'm like, yeah, did you quit? They're like, well, no. So what do you tell people like that? Because it's scary quitting your job. What do you say?
Yeah, it sure is. Well, it's definitely scary quitting your job, but at the same time, you're always thinking there's something else that you need something else. Like, you get there, which is what you think you're at. Like, you think $100,000 in the bank is going to be enough. But when you get there, you realize, man, I was wrong. Like, that's not enough. For me, it wasn't having a store of money inside the account. It was having monthly money coming in, passive income and cash flow that I knew was coming in. But here's the number one thing. I made sure that I built the business first. I made sure that I would make money every single month, that it would run on its own, and that I didn't have to do any extra for the business. Now, what that looks like, actually, let me pause that. So for me, if it was just having say $100,000 in the bank, well, eventually that's going to get wiped out. That's what, sadly, a lot of people, when they're older, have to go back to work because they ran out of money. And so instead of that, what you would do is build a business that makes money every single month. Now, what I personally did, it was in 2006 when I first started investing. I was watching late night TV. I was still working at, dead end job, and I was watching late night TV. The infomercial came on. They said, "Hey, we're real estate investor gurus. We're going to come to your town. It's going to free 2-hour seminar." And I was like, "Great, I'm going to learn." So I went there. I was all excited. Got there. The 2-hour seminar was all hype, all sales pitch. And they said, "It's normally $50,000, but it's only $1,000. Run to the back and go give us all that money for a 2-day seminar." I did that. I went to that 2-day seminar, and then in going there, it was all more hype and more sales pitch for a $40,000 course, an $80,000 course, and all these other things. But what happened was I realized that it is absolutely possible to do this without taking those big $80,000 courses. And with that, I learned that there's passive income, that I can make money every single month from my rental properties. And so instead of hoping that my money lasts me, no, what I've done now is I've built a business that I will literally give to my kids. All these properties that I have, I don't like to sell them because I make money. Why would I sell it if I make money on it? If I could then refinance it, pull the cash out, because that's really what you want is the equity, pull the cash out, buy more properties. That's the way to do it. But now I will literally give these properties to my kids because what I did was I built a business first. In fact, I'll quickly say the gurus, what they told me from the very beginning was absolutely wrong. In fact, it's just about backwards in how you should do it. The wrong way, I'll quickly go over the wrong way. They say find a property anywhere in the country, then you run the numbers, try to make sure you're getting a little bit of money in passive income, $50, but you'll get appreciation, which is what you'll love, which, I don't invest for appreciation. I invest for cash flow. This was in 2006, so it was easy to say that, but everybody who invested for appreciation got destroyed in 2009 and 10 because of all the value got lost. Then they say spend thousands of dollars to fix up the property, first spend thousands of dollars to buy the property, then spend thousands of dollars to fix up the property, then find a tenant, and then you find a property manager. Well, in my opinion, that's just about backwards because let's say you did all that. Well, I did all that. I'll just go right to it. I did all that. And my property manager started stealing from me within 6 months because I didn't know what I was doing. I just found somebody and say, "You got a pulse? Come in here and manage the property." Instead, what I did was I built a business because I knew that I needed it to run without me. I needed to make money every single month so that it could pay our bills. And then I also needed to be able to scale the business to where I could continually buy more properties to make even more money. So I personally don't think having a bulk sum of money is a wise idea. I mean, it's fine, but having a business that makes money without you working is the best way to go. But I'll pause, but I could definitely give you the right way on how to do it. That was the wrong way, so hopefully you forget that. But if I could, anyways, I'll pause because you probably got plenty of questions in that.
Man, and that's good too. So, okay, here's a question for you. Because, I'm going to buy and hold investor too. So we'll see if we do the similar things. Well, let's first start. Your first property. Like I know in the BRRRR method, you buy properties, you fix them, rehab, right? So a lot of people getting in this space might not have the cash to buy the property up front. You know what I mean? Because like me personally, I buy cash, I fix it, I pull my money back, and I just repeat it. I get free houses. In the beginning, I couldn't do that. So what do you recommend people just getting into it? How do you recommend they get started?
So there's not just one way. In fact, there are lots of ways. A dozen different ways to get started. If you don't have the money, if you do have the money, if you don't have time, if you do have time, all these different things. Now, what I'd love to do with my students is figure out or help them to understand the principles on how to invest right, building a business that's going to run itself. But on top of that, each person's finances are going to be different. Their risk tolerances, their goals, their where they are in life, everything's going to be different. So it's a little nuanced, but let me give you a couple ideas of what that could look like. Let's say you don't have any money, but you have a house. Let's say you bought a house, 15 years ago, you bought a house you live in. Well, actually, I'll give you more specific. I have a student. He's a pastor up in Sacramento. He doesn't make much money, so he doesn't have much money, but he has a house. And I helped him. We got a home equity line of credit on his house. And with that home equity line of credit, his personal residence, he took that and bought a house. I think it was in Georgia, so out of state. And we love investing out of state. It's so much better investing out of state if you build the business right. So The house was, or they were asking $120,000, but we're investors, so we don't pay full price. So we got it for, I think it was like $78,000, and it was a terrific deal. Then he spent, I think, $15,000 to fix it up. Now it's worth $150,000. And from that, he refinanced it, pulled the cash back out, paid off his home equity line of credit. And now he has a house that he doesn't have any of his own money in that property, and he's now creating cash flow. He's doing it over and over again. That's just one scenario. Another scenario, let's say you have, $15,000 to start investing. In fact, a lot of students say, well, Dustin, I have $15,000. Should I save it for a down payment for one property? Should I do this or do this or do this? And what I tell them is we don't have ors, meaning or this or this or this. What we do instead is we have all options. Whatever deal comes in your way, we figure out the financing for that specific deal. We don't block ourselves and say, I'm only using this money for a down payment. But what if you have an uncle that is like, I really want to help you out. Here's some money for down payment, private money. Or we've even used hard money. I personally use signature loans, portfolio loans, commercial loans, bundle loans. And this is an advanced strategy, I've even used credit cards to buy properties. No joke, literally credit cards, because I built a business that I knew if I borrowed that money, the business would pay off that money. Like, I didn't borrow that money and just have to pay it myself. I made sure that it would pay for itself. And just a quick example of what it looks like, if you have a candy bar that you knew without a shadow of doubt you can sell for $1 all day, every day, but it costs you 50 cents to buy the candy bar, well, that'd be great. You'd do that. But let's say you didn't even have 50 cents, but it costs you 25 cents to borrow that money, the 50 cents, in order to sell it for $1. Well, you're 75 cents out of pocket. You sell it for $1, you make 25 cents. You would do that all day because it's a business. You have the numbers all worked out because it's a business. Now, let's say if you could buy the candy bar for $1.25, well, you would not do that because you could only sell it for $1. Same thing with real estate investing. We don't buy the properties unless all the expenses are paid for by the tenant. Because, Brian, you'll absolutely get this. So I don't pay my taxes on any of my properties. I don't pay my mortgage. I don't pay my property manager. I don't pay my insurance. I don't pay for repairs. I don't pay any of that stuff. My tenants pay for all of that. Now, it so happens the money goes into me and back out to all these bills, but I don't have to get a job to hire a property manager. In fact, that's a big question. People say, Dustin, how do you afford property managers? Like, I don't need to get a job. It's already accounted for because I built a business, and that was an expense that I made sure was in there. And then on top of that, I made sure I would not buy the property unless I made $250 or more in passive income from that specific property, because $250, I want to quit my job. So it's easy math to scale it up. One property at $250 a month is $3,000 a year. 10 properties at $250 a month is $2,500 a month in passive income. 10 properties is $2,500. $30,000 a year. 20 properties is $5,000 a month. $60,000 a year. That's how, if we build the entire business, we can then scale it up because we have the people working in our business for us, and we know we're making money every single month. Does that all make sense?
100%. And one thing you said in there, actually you said a couple things, but one thing I like that you said in there, you're not structuring your $15,000 down payment or how you're spending the money. I see a lot of people get so pigeonholed in investing. It's more, go out and find the deal. Once you find a deal, you'll figure out how to purchase it and how to do that kind of stuff, versus just thinking all these different ideas on scenarios that are never going to happen. It's like, go find the deal,
right.
because if you find a deal, the money will come. Private investors will come. The bank will lend you because you buy right. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I 100% agree. Now, the caveat to that, because you're 100% right, but the caveat is having the connections if you are ready to get that property. Let's say you got a deal, but you don't have any connections. You haven't worked on finding private money lenders. You haven't worked on finding hard money lenders, mortgage brokers, signature loans. Like, you haven't worked that out. Then you're going to be scrambling. It's going to be kind of hard. How much better would it be if you already had those people, those contacts already ready? A deal comes, like, great, I can call literally everybody to try to figure out what's the best way to take this deal down and fit everything together. Same thing with, like, let me give you an example of what building the business looks like. So if you're going to start a convenience store, convenience store, candy bars and soda machines and all that good stuff, well, you're not going to sign a lease on a location, open the doors, set a box of candy bars in there on the ground. No, you wouldn't do that. You go out of business in 2 seconds. What you would do instead is you would build the business first. So you get the gondolas, the shelving units that all the candy bars go on. You get the countertops, cold storage, bank accounts, cash registers, insurance, employees. everything in the business before you buy any inventory. Then once the business is set up, then you buy the inventory and put it into your business. Same thing with real estate investing. We don't do anything in the business. Remember, I did it the wrong way without building the business first, and my property manager started stealing from me in 6 months. This is what it looks like if you're going to build the business first. Instead of calling the property manager, hey, property manager, I already bought number 1 Happy Street, just random address. I already bought this property, number 1 Happy Street. Will you manage it? I kid you not, a lot of times. No, the property manager will answer this. No, I won't manage that property because I'll get shot there. Like, well, you no longer have an asset anymore. You have a liability. How much better if you built a business, have the experts on the ground, and you call them up beforehand. Say, hey, property manager, I'm looking to buy this property, number 1 Happy Street. And they say, no, don't buy it because it's a bad area. They're good. You saved all that time and money. Same thing. You would ask them, let's say they did like it. What will it rent for? What's my vacancy factor? What type of clientele would I get? And will you manage it? And a good expert would say something like this. Oh, yes, I know that area. In fact, that house, it's like 2 blocks away from another house. Zillow, that we currently manage, Zillow was saying $1,400 for a rent, but we tried. We couldn't get $1,400. We can only get $1,300. That is expert information that you must have. You can't trust. Zillow's not an expert. Redfin, Trulia, LoopNet, they're not experts. Who are the experts is the people literally on the ground there. So that's how we're able to build the business and scale it to where we can quit our job because we have everybody in the business working for us.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. I'm a strong believer in property managers. So when I first got into real estate, like everybody else, I managed my own places. And I got into it even a little bit for a different reason too. I started meeting with people and letting them talk me into renting to them. And then 6 months later, I get a beat up house or they quit paying rent. So I like the property manager because they're a buffer. Like they're meeting with people and telling you, but you are right. You need to talk to those people because Zillow might say you get $1,400 a month rent and it really doesn't rent that because values in neighborhoods change street by street. So that's a big one there. I 100% agree.
I love property managers. In fact, I love having the property manager use me as the bad guy. I'm like, okay, you need to evict him or we need to raise the rents. It's just the way it is. Or whatever it might be. Property manager say, oh man, the landlord, that guy. Obviously, like I'm the landlord, my property manager, I am their customer, not the tenants. The tenants are not their customer. I am their customer, meaning they take care of me. But I am totally fine to have the property manager be that buffer, be that middleman saying, oh man, the landlord wants this. Okay. And so it removes that connection that you as a landlord do have because I managed some of my properties. Worst idea ever. I don't want to talk to tenants anymore. And with that, they would pull on my heartstrings. Oh man, my son got arrested again. He's in jail. I had to bail him out. Can I not pay the rent? I'd be like, oh yeah, I guess. But if I called up my mortgage company, like let's say, I don't know, Bank of America. Hey, Bank of America, my son got arrested. Can you not accept the mortgage? Can you bypass the mortgage this month? They're like, no, we're starting the foreclosure process right away. So we do is we build the business and then we set up the systems, procedures, and processes in the business so that we then have it work itself. In fact, a lot of people have heard of the book, The 4-Hour Work Week. The premise is you work 4 hours a week or you try to make your life so you structure you can work 4 hours a week. Well, in my opinion, working 4 hours a week is for suckers. I don't want to work 4 hours a week. I don't even want to work 4 hours a month. I basically work 30 minutes a month. I grab my property management statements from all my property managers, make sure everything looks good, and then go back to play with my kids or come on podcasts and talk to great people like you, right? So having property managers, there's just so much better about it. But a lot of people have that little kind of thought, well, I'm wasting money paying for that property manager. Like, yes, you could look at it that way. Instead, look at it like it's just another expense that you account for before you buy the property so you know it's paid for. You can always have it managed.
Yeah, 100%. So we're almost out of time. I got like 1 or 2 questions for you, though. First one, what are some of the top mistakes you see people making?
The top mistake, I would say, is, well, we talked about this a lot. The biggest one is not building the business first and then not finding your property manager. I'll give you an example of a lot of students when they're just getting started and they're all gung-ho, like, oh man, I found a great new city to invest in. Let's say Ohio or Tennessee or whatever. I found a new city that has good inventory, the types of homes that we want to buy and also rent out for good rent. And they say, I already got 5 realtors looking at properties for me. I'm like, whoa, stop. If you bought a property, who would manage that property? They're like, yes, realtors, wholesalers, like they're great. We love those, but they're last. We have to do so much more in the business before we can buy any properties, because if you can't manage a property, if you can't fund getting financing for that property, if you don't have inspectors, if you don't have all that stuff ready before you get into a deal, everything else is going to fall apart. So the biggest thing is build the business first and then have the experts do the work for you.
Gotcha. Then that makes sense. Hey, how can people connect with you?
Yeah. I actually have a course, a real estate investing course I just love to give away for free. Do you mind if I give that to everybody?
Yeah, sure.
So I just want you to see you start investing. I'll literally show you everything and then some of everything, how to build the business, find anywhere in the country to invest, how to scale your business, to quit your job. If you text the word rental, RENTAL, rental to 33777, rental to 33777, I'll literally give it to you for free. You can even go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course. All one word, /free course, and I'll give it to you. Also, you can find me. I have my own podcast. It's a solo show. It's called Master Passive Income. Literally just me giving out all this information on how to do it. You can find me on YouTube as well. Same thing under Master Passive Income. I also like Instagram. So I'm on Instagram, so I don't mind getting DMs on there. And the handle is the Dustin Heiner. So THE Dustin Heiner. And Brian, I'm not that arrogant. It's the only handle I could come up with. Everything else was taken as far as I could find. One last thing was, if you remember when I talked about, if you're going to have a deal, you need to have the connections to help you get that deal either funded or sold off or wholesaled. Well, I created, because I have like thousands of students now, I created a conference called the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference. It's once a year. This year it's in Phoenix. Next year it'll be on the East Coast. And it's literally a no sales pitch conference. Not one of those they say, run to the back and go give us thousands of dollars. It's the opposite of that. It's my students coming together, and I've already got 40 plus speakers with all of their students as well, audience coming together. It's helping each other out. So if you go to rewbcon.com, rootcon.com, use the promo code podcast. I know you came from Brian's podcast, and get you 10% off the code. It's literally building a community. That's all we're doing, because the more people that we connect with and help each other out in this business, the better everybody's investing gets. So, but I really appreciate you, Brian, having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Hey, what's your favorite book?
I'll give you two quickly. The Bible, number one, by far my favorite book ever. Number two, I would have to say How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. I saw on your website you have a couple book recommendations, like Richest Man in Babylon, Think and Grow Rich, right?
Yes, those are fantastic too. In fact, the one that got me started down the route of passive income was Rich Dad Poor Dad. I had no idea. Like, I'm going down the Poor Dad, train of thought. Then I get read that book and my mind's blown. There's such a thing as passive income? My goodness. So yeah, Richest Man of Babylon is such an amazing book. Like, financial principles in a story format, fictional, but it helps you, just opens your mind. Oh, yeah, there's so many great things. And so all these books are just so helpful for me.
That's cool, man. Hey, thanks. We appreciate you coming on. Everybody, we'll have all those links in the show notes too, so you don't have to write them down. You can just go on our website and check them out. Hey, Dustin, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate you.
Hey, thanks everyone for listening. Get out there, crush it, close some deals. We'll see you next time.